Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. I got my unfiltered brothers in here, Vashawn and Chris. As many of us have been talking about the last few days, the conclusion of spring practice for the Texas Longhorns and all the storylines and quarterback controversies and Arch is overrated according to the national media. And we're, Texas is going to win 11 out of 12 games. We're a top five team in the country. All sorts of spring ball narratives. There's no better time. This is what college football is like, fellas. This is college football in the offseason, right? I mean, these are the things that pop up. But we're excited to talk about Bashan and Chris's experiences, closing out narratives from the spring, things that we find as positives, things that we are concerned about, and some things that we were surprised by, quite frankly. Now, and before I kick it to Vashan, I want to make this very clear. We are reacting, in some cases overreacting, to a spring game.
Yeah.
And that was one practice out of 15 and however many months this staff had with the team. So please keep that in mind when you're doing your analysis. And we've mentioned this before in our preview of how overreactionary we can be with spring, positive or negative. It's one practice, right? So, but Vashawn, in our preview, you said it's for the fans, right? And so,
Yes.
brother, you had an opportunity to go down with your grandson and share that experience with him over the weekend. I was so bummed I wasn't able to join you guys down there. But if you just want to talk about the atmosphere and the environment from us as fans, being down there for the family reunion, aka the Texas Spring, aka the Orange and White scrimmage, brother.
Man, I tell you, Steve, it was an electric crowd, man. It was you can tell um it was different this time. I've been to a lot of spring games. I haven't seen it this packed in a while, and I don't know the exact number, but it seemed like on the home side, it was packed. And I looked over to the away side, and it was also filling up. So I'll just say this. Um, a certain player came on the field, Arch, and man, you just hear the clap. I mean, you hear the claps, you hear the standing ovation. So we knew a lot of people was there to see Arch, and a lot of people there to see a lot of the newer players. And I mean, Quinn got the attention last year, but man, overall, it was good, man, to see guys that they had a guy in the stand. Me and my wife walked up, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Hey man, I know you. You from Unfiltered. You do the live videos. You on Fanaticals." I was like, "Yeah." It was nice to see people recognize you. But like I say, man, Longhorn fans, I say this, man, we've been through some tough times the last 12, 13 years, but we're still one family, and it was good to see everybody that you see online in groups on Twitter, get to talk to them, and everybody really wants the same thing. We all just want our team to win and be successful, and no matter how we go about it, we're just passionate about it. That's one thing that make our fan base. A lot of schools make fun of us, call us T-shirt fans and stuff like that. But what makes Texas unique is the great big fan base that it has from all walks of life, all races, all different ethnicity background. Man, it's a beautiful thing. And when we're up there rooting for that team, hey man, people forget about, oh, I'm this color, I'm that, or I'm from this city, I'm from this town. They forget about it. Hey man, we're talking some ball. And I can't remember the gentleman that was up there with me, but I just want to tell you, man, appreciate you. Man, you had some very good knowledge, and I just overall enjoyed it. I wanted to bring my grandson because I'm raising them right, y'all, the roof of them Longhorns. But I just wanted to have this experience, bring my grandson down there with my wife, and he loved it. He stole the show. He was up there in the stands. He had his cowboy hat on, his cowboy boots. Everybody's like, "Hey, man, look at him," But hey, man, he stole the show, and that's what it's all about. That's what the spring game is all about, man. Just fun, entertainment, clean fun, man, and just watching and enjoying your team. We can critique it later, but man, overall, Steve and Chris, great experience. I mean, it really. Went down there just to get my mind away. I started a new job, and I just like, man, I'm gonna go down here and just relax and have a good time. Man, I came back refreshed, man. But love it, love it, love it, and I encourage anybody next year, go.
That's an incredible endorsement. Texas needs to use that to
Yes.
promote fans to
Put him
come
on
to
a
the spring
payroll.
game. And I'm
Yeah.
glad, again, all the social media with your grandson, this and some of the pictures that you shared in our group chat with Chris and I.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And those are memories that last a lifetime for you and him. I want to, as we transition to talking ball, you mentioned the atmosphere and the applause, and I felt it watching it on the broadcast as well when Arch Manning came onto the field, and kind of that, the cheering and the crowd. And we saw a big piece of that last year with Quinn Ewers. And
Yes.
and as I transitioned to Chris, one thing one takeaway I have as I think about this is, classic college football fan, we are always excited for the thing we haven't seen yet. We are always excited. We are always excited for what's new, the new shiny prospect, the new shiny this or that, and that energy is just different. And so I've already in a lot of cases Malik as well. We hadn't seen Malik perform publicly, in this type of setting. So because we've seen Quinn for a year now, that luster is kind of gone, and it's moved on to guys like Arch, right? But Chris, as we, like I said, transition in the ball, what were your takeaways, man, in terms of the things that really just stood out to you, and as you've rewatched it and it's going through your head, what's on your mind, brother, as we open up the football conversation?
On that first take that for Sean and you were talking about with Arch, man, it seems like Texas quarterbacks, when you're the phenom and the first time you run out, man, they treat you like, man, you one of the Beatles or something like that, bro. I
Yeah.
remember like last year, like, I mean, I've kind of felt so weird for viewers this past year so bad. Every time I get a chance, I turn on that Bama game. I was telling Vashawn today, I turn on that Bama game because when they first ran out, when it was him and Banks and Worthy and Bijan, you kind of started seeing the future. The crowd was loud. I mean, it was just like, whoa, and then it was just like, and then he lit it up, and then all of a sudden, whenever nature happens and you start developing, that's when people kind of, you don't get the next year, like 6-8 months later, spring, same dude, same guys running on the field minus Bijan. It's quiet, man. It's real quiet. But overall, though, man, despite the quarterback, conversation or anything, man, I think like what we talked about in the last video, the depth on the offense and all the skill positions, I was really impressed. I was really, really impressed. I think our second group of wide receivers with Jonte, DeAndre Moore, and let's say whether it was Casey Kane or if it's Nair, no matter who it would be, I mean, rank that if there was a 13th team in the Big 12. Where do you think that group of receivers would be? I think Jonte Cook is the man. That dude is a dog. Like that guy is like everything we were talking about, that last video. Like I don't want anybody to get hurt or anything like that. I want everybody to be healthy. Everybody needs to, show their potential, man. But I'll tell you what, last year, we had some guys dropping balls. We had some guys, getting deep, not being able to make completion of the catch. And, wide receivers are wide receivers at times, man. I think this year, if there's anybody in that starting lineup that's having problems, and you go run to the sideline and because you just ran 50 yards and you dropped a ball, the guy that comes back might run 50, 60 yards or 79, 80 like Jonte did on Saturday and make a touchdown. Like, I mean, there's so much talent in the position depth. I mean, first, second team, running back room's impressive. It's not as experienced as we needed to be. There's not that veteran in the running back room, but I think, and I know Brooks wasn't there, but I think Bijan and Rojo's made so many carries over the last couple of years that we don't have that veteran running back in there that we just feel comfortable with on third down sitting next to the quarterback. We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of potential. We just don't have, a lot of just we don't have a Rojo type player back there. I mean, it doesn't have to be the leading rusher on your team, but just somebody you feel comfortable with back there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are saying, they feel like Savion Red can fulfill that role, and he got a lot of positive remarks from the staff this spring. Some guys that former alumni players, as well as guys that cover this team, have told me, hey, he's been very consistent practice over practice, because that's another thing I pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you coming and turning up in the spring game and then they tell me that you weren't practicing well. And the reason why I say that is, before you try to push something about this person should play over this person because of what you saw in the spring game, which could be valid, right? I do think that when we get into the conversations of personnel and whatnot, we have to trust the staff, because the staff has seen way more than we have seen practice over practice to make evaluations. So when it comes to, Savion Red, I'm excited about what I heard. It carried over for me, for the most part, into the scrimmage. But there's those little things that make the difference between somebody you can trust. And Chris, something we were talking about offline is trust. Like, okay, you can run well, you break tackles, you make a man miss, but can I trust you on third down on the road in at Kansas State, right? At Texas Tech, or in a hostile environment where communication might be poor, and you're able to, we have that same trust that we had before. Can you speak to those elements?
I mean, that's big. I mean, it's I don't see anybody in this offensive backfield that does that right now. Maybe it's Brooks. I mean, he's the most experienced. He has the most carries out of everybody.
Right.
But I mean, I just don't see it. And it's so weird. It's just like the whole talk of, what we need in the portal. Obviously, defensive end is great, or like outside linebacker, pass rush. In my opinion, I think center is probably a position we need to look at real seriously finally. But I mean, running back is just as important. Like if you don't have that guy, like we were saying offline, man, if you don't have that guy on third down when you can communicate, that guy that just knows to get the closest guy to him to pick it up. I mean, it's so weird. So last year I'm looking at us having Quinn sitting next to Rojo and Bijan, and I felt so comfortable with that. This year, Quinn's a year older. I'm not quite comfortable with Quinn yet. I'm a little more comfortable than I was last year, obviously. But now I have a back who is not nowhere near as seasoned, standing next to Quinn or whoever in the backfield on third down. I mean, that's your money down, man. I mean, that's the down that when you get off the field or not,
That's where Tashard Choice is going to really have to ramp guys and really show us from a coaching standpoint, right? In terms of, you got guys in the room, Savion Red, who transitioned in, Cedric Baxter played a lot with the ones and the twos, and will be in that rotation. He's too natural of a runner not to. And we saw some ability from Ced. Brooks is obviously now the veteran party and the guy that's been waiting, quite frankly. This may be a non-starter if Brooks, because we've been blessed with health with Rojo and Bijan the last couple of years, we didn't really need to go to Brooks, or we didn't get to see Brooks. But I've never seen Brooks in the game and not perform.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Yeah.
Every time he's gotten a chance to be in the game, he's performed. And I know we can talk about the bowl game, and we clearly had an agenda to throw the football. That was we had an agenda to do something else. But even in those limited snaps, whether it was in the passing game or whatever, he still got in the end zone twice. So I think, Chris, where I'm at, I'm not as concerned as you are, only because I think Jay Brooks fulfills that and then allows my young guys to filter behind that. What say you, Vashawn?
Well, I just say that Red, he can run that ball. I mean, I saw he had the vision, he had the patience, but like Chris and we talked about earlier off script that he has to work on that pass protection. But like you say, every time Blue got in the game, you saw it last year, even in the spring game last year. Every time Blue got, I mean, I'm sorry, not Blue, Brooks got in the
We'll
game,
get to Blue in a
he
second. We'll get
performed.
to Blue in a second,
Yeah,
but Brooks, yeah.
yeah, we'll get to Blue. Every time Brooks got in the game, he performed. And usually when guys are good, like you say, it's a consistent thing you see. You don't see him just say, yeah, he's been kind of doing poor at practice and all of a sudden he gets good. You see it over and over again. And I'll never forget when I saw Jade Barron and Byron Murphy, who we're going to talk about later. I saw them as true freshmen. Well, redshirt freshmen. No, they was true freshmen.
True freshman. Yeah.
The moment I saw them, Steve, they jumped off the film. I was like, whoa, they look different. And year three, look at them. You can tell. And just like
Right.
Brooks has been what people say. Every time Brooks get in the game, what does he do? He finds a way to get in the end zone.
Hmm.
That translates to games. That's just not a fluke. Well, he got lucky or whatever the case. No, Brooks is pretty good. And I think Stan Drayton has a pretty good eye for talent for backs. I mean, we can go all the way back to Ingram. People can say, "Oh, I didn't like Ingram." Ingram was a solid running back. So I trusted Stan Drayton, and I like our new running back coach. I think Tashard Choice is going to get those guys together and get them right. And it might be Brooks lead dog, and then we got Baxter, Blue coming in and spare or whatever the case. But I think, man, overall, uh, it's not going to be a Bijan and Rojo, but I think we're going to see multiple running backs, and we still haven't talked about Keelan Robinson, which I don't know what type of role they're looking for him yet, but I think we'll be fine. But we got to get that interior offensive line together, and I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, and let's give some credit to Jaden Blue, right? And
Yes.
he had kind of a little bit of a bumpy road getting to Texas, and kind of waiting his turn, and it's a crowded group, but again, this is now a young man who got his opportunity to play. No Keelan, no Jonathan Brooks, and he balled. He
Yeah.
balled on Saturday. And he's had his highs during camp and he's had his lows. One thing I want to see from Jaden Blue going into the summer is just that consistency. Give me that guy I saw on Saturday
Yeah.
every day. You won't. There's no. Then you're giving the coaches no excuse not to have you on the field or to carve out a role for you, because he's very, very gifted in the open field. That's obvious. I mean, he had between him and AD Mitchell highlight reel plays of the day, and we had a lot of good highlight plays. I mean, you mentioned Jonte Cook earlier, Chris. AD Mitchell one hand grab in the back of the end zone, and as we transition over to just the weaponry in general, right? I mean, there's an emphasis this spring on deep balls, right? And making sure that we are hitting on those opportunities. Steve Sarkisian's offense is still I'm
Yeah.
not trying to drive 15 plays,
No,
right?
no,
We're
no,
trying
no.
to our deep posts, our crossers, our goes, all those things, right? And so I did see between Quinn Ewers and Malik Murphy. I mean, Malik Murphy back-to-back snaps hits people in the chest, 60, 70 yards downfield. I mean,
Yeah.
let's talk about this, right? I mean, there's clearly an emphasis there on we cannot F this up 2
Yeah.
years in a row. But Sean, you want to go first?
Well, yeah, man, AD Mitchell gives us that guy as we saw when Quinn. It was an overthrow. Let's call it what it was in the end zone. It was an overthrow. He gives us that guy that you don't have to throw a perfect ball. He went up and grabbed that joker out the air one-handed and came down with it. Great body control. That's something we've been missing for a while. I think since maybe Colin Johnson, who
I
else?
agree. It was
Little Jordan.
Colin
Little
and
Jordan
LJ.
Humphrey. Yeah, we hadn't had
Yes.
that. When we came in, we had receivers that, Sark likes guys that can really just get open in space with speed. But I do remember when we first hired him, what did he say, Simp? He was like, I want my wide receivers to be like a basketball team, a starting five. You got a point guard, you got a shooting guard, you got a small forward, power forward in the center. So I think we see that now. You got a mixture of guys. So you got Jonte, you got DeAndre Moore, you got Worthy. That's your burners. With man, and I liked him, Steve, how he when they put him in the slot, he was working the zones, man. He was finding the holes in the zones, and Quinn started finding them. So, that's more like your small forward. And then you got your power forward or your center, A.D. Mitchell. And don't forget Nayor. We still forgetting about Nayor and Casey Kane.
Yeah.
Casey Kane, who got hurt, is having, and we heard, Steve, he's having a great spring. So I think you got a mixture of talent. And I think, man, we was missing that power forward center, that guy that can, every throw don't have to be perfect online, that can just go adjust to the ball and get it. And like
Well,
Simpson.
to the Casey Kane point, that's a great. I'm glad you brought that up too, because
Yeah.
for those who think we're just, I know he's not the, people look at the lack of production last year, and he's not the most popular name that Texas fans like to talk about. And again, what do we like? We said it earlier. We like the new shiny thing, right? Right.
Yeah.
Casey Kane point. That's a guy. If you look at the Texas highlights from every scrimmage they had that they would put out publicly, you kept seeing 88 all over the package. Now, I've also made the argument for a lot of these players, because we've seen it before. I don't need you to just be a scrimmage hero. I need you to go ahead and cook when the lights come on, okay?
Yeah.
You can't just be out here being that man. That's great. That's great that you're bringing in practice.
Yeah.
And you really made AD work to solidify that number one spot on the boundary. It wasn't just given to him per se. Now with the injury, and they are having to be kind of brought along slowly, that'll be an interesting discussion. But before I get to Chris, speaking of new things, I want to give a shout out to our first sponsor, Last Stand Hats. A lot of y'all, I'm sure, were rocking, the Last Stand Hats. Sean's got it right there. Look how beautiful that is. LastStandHats.com/fanatic, the official sponsor, the official apparel company, hat company of Fanatic Perspective. Hit that promo code Fanatic10. Okay, Fanatic10 gets you 10% off at checkout. Last Stand Hats family's out here. They're on social media, so please follow them on all social medias. Just an amazing company. I mean, Sean, you've already been buying from there for a while, and Chris, Chris gonna have some merch here soon. But Last Stand Hats, those out there that were rocking the spring game, we appreciate you. LastStandHats.com/fanatic. Hit that promo code Fanatic10. Chris, do you have any other thoughts you have on the receivers, or can we get to O-line play?
I just want to say one thing about the receivers real quick. It was good to see an A.D. Mitchell sliding right in to that position where Whittington was last year. And just to see everybody back in their positions they should probably be in. We're going to be explosive. We're going to be explosive. No matter where we're in 11 personnel, no matter where we are. One more thing I do want to say about this receiver room. I'm hearing a lot of talk about, JT Sanders going pro, which is probably going to happen. That dude's going to have a great year. But, they're talking about we need another explosive tight end. And just like Texas fans, man, I mean, JT Sanders is a Jermichael Finley, once every 8, 9, 10-year guy. You may get, you may not. I think this receiver room is so talented that if you line up an 11 personnel after next year, I mean, you don't need to have an all-world, the number 2 tight end in the draft on your team. I mean, it'd be great to have. If we get that guy, great. But, I mean, man, there's been, and I hate to just give these great players drive-bys or whatever, but, I mean, an Andrew Beck type is amazing to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were so many years we struggled at the tight end position at Texas that we just thought every guy had to be like, Pat Fitzgerald, or, they had to be like, Jermichael Finley or David Thomas. And it's just like, no, man. I mean, sometimes just give me that guy that just really like a Jeff Swain, I mean, give me a guy that does the dirty work that I don't have to worry about. If he's helping out on the tackle, I ain't got to worry about him and the tackle getting thrown into the quarterback. Give me that guy that is gonna get into the zone at tight end. We don't, like I said, we don't have to have, it doesn't have to be an all-world guy. This receiver room is going to be so talented over the next couple of years, man. With guys coming in, bro, like with it, it's. I wouldn't focus on that tight end. I would focus on the speed. Jonte, I'm telling you, that man is a dog. He is. I mean, he's going to still route some guys that are going to be playing in the NFL in 2 years. He gonna still let he gonna steer their reps this year. It's going to happen.
I think if it wasn't for Xavier Worthy being present, we would already be. He'd be looking at a similar type seasons they had a couple years ago, honestly, with the volume. I think when you saw the way he was being used, even some of the creative ways to give him the ball, even if it's just a fly sweep. Another thing that too, this is just a suggestion I personally have, because I saw Sark do it a lot at Bama because of the way his personnel was structured. Let's not necessarily get into the pigeonholing. Like, I understand, okay, Witt's going to be in the slot. You got your boundary guys like an 80 or a Nair. You have your guys to the field like a Worthy and whatnot. But there's times where if you want to really get creative and screw up the balance of a defense, have Worthy and Jonte on the field at the same time, right? And break tendency. A lot of these guys can play slot and are versatile enough to play slot. Break tendency, motion guys over, have bunch packages where people have to line up and make decisions on, okay, they're running bunch and Cook and Worthy are a part of this. How do we can't bracket, right? Like, how do we deal with this? So I don't want to just come and line up and play football and be like, all right, this is your position and this is your position and that's it. Another thing I liked, speaking of Jatavian Sanders, was we seemed to flex him a lot more, a little bit. And so just showing that off and we flexed Jaden Blue a couple of times. We flexed Cedric Baxter a couple of times. Break tendency. Don't get pigeonholed and line it up all the time. Not that that's necessarily been the biggest issue, because we've lacked personnel, in my opinion, at certain positions, but something I'm paying attention to. Let's get to the offensive line. So due to the lack of depth on the second team with the center situation, Connor Robertson didn't play. Hayden Connor went and was the second team center. So Neto got the opportunity to play with the first team O-line at left guard. Cam Williams by default, because at the time we recorded last time, DJ Campbell wasn't ruled out yet. So Cam Williams plays right guard. Jake Majors obviously at center. Just the overall aspect of the interior play, I feel like it looked like it was very up and down. To me, they had some good reps.
Yeah,
they had some good reps. They had some good reps in pass pro. They had some good reps, in the run. But there were times, you could tell Cam Williams uncomfortable pulling. That's not what he was doing back at Duncanville playing tackle, right? And there's times where Neto struggled against power dealing with Byron Murphy, right? And so, is this just now where we write it off as, all right, well, they're going to be more so depth plays and, Cole Hudson's coming back and DJ Campbell's coming back and Hayden Connor will start. So or is this a legit concern that we have? Like, is the interior offensive line a legit concern, Bashan?
I'm going to try not to overreact,
Okay.
But I'm like you, man. I've seen some concerns, especially right there in the middle. Saw Collins beat Jake a few times, one-on-one, and but I did see some good things. Jake will come back, he'll have a good pass protection, pass pro, and then I saw Cam one time get his hands on Collins and push Collins back 5-6 yards down the field. And that's what I tried when I went back to rewatch the game. I said, man, I'm just gonna look strictly at the trenches. It was up and down, just like you said, man. I don't think it's a concern because, like you just brought up, we was missing two key guys that's going to be playing major minutes and snaps come fall. So I think the more Neto, and Cam Williams play, I think the better they're going to get. And then we still haven't seen Connor Robinson. Connor Robinson is going to push for some time at center, hopefully, and maybe push Jake Majors. But uh, I'm for one this. I know we're going to talk about the portal, and we heard rumors that reason we haven't went to the portal because Flood told them guys he wasn't. But man, if we can go get a guy now, he got to be he got to be a stud. If we can go get a guy that can push Jake Majors, and I'm not saying bench Jake Majors. I'm not saying that Longhorn is. I'm just saying get somebody in there that can push him at the center position because centers are hard to find. Hey man, I'm all for it. Go for it. But other than that, I just think they need more snaps. And I think once the other two guys come back, I think we'll look totally different because they did gel a little bit last year, Steve, toward the end of the year when Bijan and Rojo started running for all those yards against Baylor and all of them, because they started rough against Alabama. And then, man, they just started, they started getting better and better. But if you see the same things over and over with particular players, you kind of say, I don't know, has he reached his ceiling? That remains to be seen. What you guys think?
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you too. My thing with, like we said in the last video, we're not overreacting over the spring. We're not going to overreact over anything. It's just like, it's kind of like but after watching a game, it's kind of like when you go and you tell your parents that you did something. It's like, hey, mom, I'm gonna tell you something. Like, how you say, be honest about everything. You're not gonna overreact, are you? And she's like,
Yeah.
oh no, baby, I got you. I got you. What'd you do?
Yeah.
And then you tell them, and it's just like, it's a little more serious. No, man. I think one problem I've seen with the interior offensive line though over the last several years, and we've had a problem at center for a while, in my opinion. And nothing against Jake Majors. I think Jake Majors, like, I'm glad he's on the roster. Like, if he wasn't here,
Yeah.
and with the
Yeah.
way everybody's playing, Jake's played solid ball. There's just that one or two defensive linemen, two or three per year, that just gives him just the business. If you see Jake's best football, it is when or not Flood, but Herb Hand and Tom Herman.
Mhm.
I mean, when he was doing a lot of zone blocking, I mean, he's not a guy that's going to go straight up. He's not one of those big. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a 300-pound man. He's 300-pound man's a big man, But it's just like he just seems more comfortable. If you look at his best football, it's Bijan's freshman year when he came in those last couple games of the year after Kerstetter got hurt at center. And man, that
Outside zone.
young man,
Yeah.
they were playing outside zone like
Zone. Yeah.
crazy. And that's his
Yeah.
strength. He's the kind of guy that's going to be better in the NFL if he's a free agent or gets drafted, or like, let's say the Dolphins or the 49ers take him.
Yeah.
That guy would be great. Like Connor Williams was everybody in Dallas hated him and there, but he's an outside zone kind of guy. You put him at Miami, that dude's the starting center. That dude's playing in the playoff game. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, it's just like different strokes, different folks, different talent. I say once we do get that veteran or that guy in the middle, maybe that'll hold these two young guys a little better, just, and like I said, nothing taking anything against Jake. I think if Jake has his guys that he played 600 snaps with last year, whatever amount of snaps they played with, I think everything looks different. I think Jake looked great, but when he's playing with two younger guys, he doesn't have that presence that you're going to want at the center. I hate to say it, but I mean, it seems like every time there's Jake has competition. It was last year, Junior Angulau. He had the ACL injury in the spring, man, or in the summertime. It seemed like every time, we have somebody's going to push. We just want the iron to sharpen the iron. We
There
don't,
you go. Yeah.
and if he beat them guys out, man, that's awesome. Like I'm a
That's
fan of
awesome.
whoever's playing quarterback. I'm a fan of whoever's playing center. I'm your biggest fan. But like I said, I just want these guys to get pushed, and it just seems like every time we need to push Majors. We need to push Majors. Let's get them in the weight room. Let's get them pushed. Let's get them pushed at a position. The other guy get hurt every time, every year. So
I do think with what Kyle Flood is philosophically trying to do is in terms of finding that group and to have as many, eliminate as many weaknesses as possible. It's going to be very interesting how Hayden Connor gets graded out at center with
Yeah,
the second
I
team
want to see that. Yeah, I want to see that too. I want to go back and look
because
at him. Go ahead.
I want to go back and really, really pay because I know Hayden Connor had some really good reps at center, but
Hmm.
that's also why like somebody like Neto gets that opportunity because it's like, all right, well, if we can get by at left guard, then I could potentially kick Hayden Connor to center.
Yep.
And that could possibly be my best five.
Yeah.
But I think Vashawn, it's really going to be hard to find any type of center. Like if you're a good center and you're in the portal, there's probably a legal issue or something.
Yeah. Or
Your
some
coach
tampering, NIL tampering going on.
Hey, there's Matthew Wyckoff from A&M, man. That dude, when Bryce Foster got hurt last year, that dude started a bunch of games, did well against the run, maybe not as great against the pass, but he made the All-SEC freshman. I mean, I just want to bring somebody in here, just like I said, man, just to help sharpen that iron. Whoever wins, may the best man win.
So we gotta move on. And speaking of may the best man win, Steve Sarkisian named starting quarterback Quinn Ewers after the spring. And to me, I'll be honest, to me it didn't feel controversial. Like I knew Quinn was going to be the starter, and I mean I didn't feel like that was crazy, but it seemed to have been met with some especially after seeing Malik Murphy performance. And you can make the argument Malik is one of the guys, if we were to, be like A&M and name an MVP of the spring game, the performance, right? Malik would be one of the candidates. And I think had the best day of the three quarterbacks. We're not going to talk too much Arch right now. I just want to address this one more time. Arch was out there playing with walk-ons and third-string guys and going up against Gavin Holmes and Malik Muhammad and Anthony Hill and all those guys. He wasn't going to move the football, okay? Arch is fine. If you think that's how things work in college football, you're sadly mistaken. I'm not talking Arch right now. I just made a video about that. He's fine, okay? And the more I watched it, the more I actually was encouraged because he didn't freak out and make any horrible decisions and throw picks.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. That group, you do what you did. You use your legs, you move around, and you get rid of the football, and you live to fight another day. But going back to the Malik stuff, right? I mean, he threw the piss out of the ball. Let's just be real, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just be he threw that thing, right? And so I think there was some. I think this is where we get into the narratives part, Vashawn. Is there narratives? I feel like there's people that are like, hey, we want to, like, it's kind of like Malik, okay, you did good, but you're never going to start at Texas, so good luck to you, and eventually it's just going to go Quinn to Arch. And there's there seems to be that underlying narrative. And then I also think that there's narratives of people that are like, hey, Malik should challenge Quinn right now and be the starting quarterback off of that performance. And where do you fall and what are you seeing, Bashan, in the unfiltered space? What's going on with narratives around the quarterback?
Well, I had to get up on this one. Yeah. Okay, let's start with Sarkisian. Instantly, right after the game, he names Quinn the starter. We got a saying, and we all say it. What's understood don't need to be explained. Everybody understands who Quinn is the starter. Why does it need to be explained? Sark saw what we saw, but that's not saying Malik's the starter. Look, guys, Quinn's the starter. And let me make that point. Quinn is the starter. But I believe what we saw, because like I told you guys earlier, the stand when Archman and it was funny, Steve, because I had my back. I was looking down, doing something, and I started hearing all these claps and woo, woo, woo. And I'm looking. I'm talking about the whole crowd erupted. So I look up. What happened? Somebody scored? And the guy said, "No, Arch just came into the game." And I was like, "What?" I say they gave him a standing ovation, and that's cool, guys, because I love Arch too. I was there to see Arch,
Yeah.
but they didn't do that for Quinn. They didn't do that for Malik. So now I'm thinking in the psyche of a Malik Murphy. I know Malik heard that. I know he heard that. So now I'm thinking like what I just witnessed Malik do. I want to tell you guys, what does a competitor do when it's time to step up? He rises to the occasion. I believe what we saw Malik do. He heard the cheers for Arch, and he know people was there for Arch. He know people was there for Quinn. And I'm just interjecting my opinion on this matter. But man, he just stepped up and did what he's supposed to do. Now I'm not looking into because a lot of people tried to downplay. Well, he was throwing against the second and third team, and the only thing I can just say about that is if he hadn't made those throws, then we'd be like, oh well, hey man, we'd be concerned about him. But you can only do what against what the competition's in front of you. And what I saw him do was make the right read, which is not easy to do because how many times we saw quarterbacks at the University of Texas miss wide open receivers, don't even throw it to him. And he hit guys in stride, not once, but twice back to back. Man, that's not an easy throw to do. So what he did to me just shows that this kind of arm talent he has and that he's been utilizing his time. I mean, he hadn't played it when he missed last spring, right, Steve? He's been utilizing his time, learning the playbook. He's worked on he's worked on that throwing motion. He's refined a little better, and I feel good. I mean, I really feel good about our backup quarterback, and we don't know what's going to happen during the summer. Remember what happened with Colt McCoy and Jevin Sneed? Jevin Sneed was winning the quarterback battle. They say Colt came on strong during the summer, and we know what happened in the fall. The rest is history. So all I'm saying is, guys, Jevin Sneed was thought to be the starter. Jevin Sneed was the highly recruited guy. Colt McCoy ended up being the quarterback. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with Malik or Quinn or anybody else, but like Steve talked about, let's not be quick to write off anything because I think Sip mentioned it in the last video. Georgia had no clue who was going to be their quarterback. They thought it was going to be somebody else, and they ended up winning the championship with a whole nother quarterback. So, man, to be honest about it, we should be happy, Longhorn Nation, that we have a quarterback that did what he did instead of trying to downplay what he did and say, oh, well, it was just against the backups. We should be thankful that the guy hit the plays that he made. And, man, if anything happens to Quinn or anybody else, we know we got a viable option that's coming behind them. But I just want to talk on the one real small part about his competitive mindset. We're talking about a guy when I'm sorry, first when Quinn jumped in the transfer portal and came to Texas, Malik could have left. He could have left, guys. He could have went to UCLA. I know for a fact UCLA, Chip Kelly was after him. He's from California. Think about the mindset this kid in today's age of NIL, and you know this, Simp. He could have just said, I'm out of here, man. Look at that.
Deuces.
He could have pulled a Jalen Milrow on us. I'll call him out. He's at Alabama. He could have just, the coach don't like me. I'm going to go ahead and transfer out. Malik stayed. He didn't run from that competition. He's like, okay, y'all bring in Quinn, cool. Another thing, last year, here comes Arch Manning, number one quarterback in the class. So he's sandwiched in between a number one quarterback and he got another number one quarterback behind him. Did Malik leave? No. That kind of tells you the mindset or competitor that we have. And then when the lights came on, man, he showed out. I'm just gonna say that he stole the show. When I left up out of those stands, everybody was talking about Malik. And that's why y'all saw a lot of the reactions. You know, we saw it in Unfiltered. We saw it on Twitter. Wow. Because I think we hadn't seen Malik in 2 years. We heard about him, but we hadn't seen him. And then when we seen him live, it just shocked us. Like, wait a minute. This guy's actually good. And, you know, we got a few guys on Unfiltered, Edwin, James, that's Malik fans, and they love him. Yeah, we got some Edwin guys. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
hook 'em on
saying?
my end.
Yeah, but uh, to see him live do his thing, man, it was shocking to me, and it was pleasant. And I'm for one love it because we talked about this before, Steve. This is the first time we have in the quarterback room with potential now, guys, potential because we still haven't seen them guys get on the field yet, but potentially three guys because people forget Malik was a 5-star. He was a 5-star before he really got hurt. He had that shortened season and they dropped him to a 4-star. So legitimately, we have 3 5-stars in our backfield. I don't think we've ever had that. Maybe when Vince was there, but you know, man, I would say when Vince was there, but
It
it's
was
been a
Vince Sims and
while.
Mock. Yeah,
Yeah, Vince Mark and what's
Sims,
the other kid?
Chris
Sims. Yeah,
Sims. Yeah,
yeah, man. So and we know what happened when that happened. 11, 10, 12 win seasons. So hey,
national
man, just
championship.
yep. Let's just be happy that we have that because most schools don't. Ohio State has it every year, and they got guys transfer out, and they just bring another guy in. But that's what you want. Simp said it earlier. Competition breeds. It's iron sharpening iron, and that's why we're talking about bring somebody in that can push Jay Majors. Iron sharpen iron. I think Malik's gonna make Quinn a better quarterback because Quinn got to look over his shoulder. You better believe Quinn saw that. Silp. I know Quinn saw that, and he's like, "Oh, I cannot slip up come this summer. I better get on my game because you got this monster." That's how I describe him. Named Malik Murphy, and I like some things what I saw in Arts too. You got two monsters coming behind you. It's just only going to make Quinn better.
I think it's the best thing that ever happened to Quinn Ewers.
Exactly.
Because if you really think about it, the thing that Quinn will have is, and the reason why I think Sark is comfortable doing of naming the starter is Quinn's experience, right? Like at some point, the live bullets that he's been through last season do matter. And I
Yeah.
understand you want to start the best player who gives you the best opportunity to win, but Malik and Arch have not played in a collegiate football game yet, to my knowledge, right? And so
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers has seen Bama, he's seen OU, he's seen all these
Yeah.
things. And I think if Sark could have done it again the year before, the Hudson Card, Casey Thompson thing, we put all these live reps into Casey Thompson, and we really didn't get the benefit of it because the player left.
Yeah.
And so
Yep,
Hudson
that's right.
Card didn't get, like, you saw year 1 to year 2 how much better he was just being in the Steve Sarkisian offense. How much better could Card have been had he played all of 2021? So now it does matter, I think, from a psychological standpoint between the quarterback and the coach of having continuity there. We talked about continuity with the staff. Now we're going to have the same person starting 2 years over. Here's the thing, though. When you got the monster behind you and Malik Murphy, and you have the phenom and Arch Manning in the room, you cannot slack off. There's no time for there's no more Oklahoma State performances.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
Because you will be sat down. And there's no shade. But that's the time we're on. But you know what? Ohio State's been on that time for years, bro.
Yeah. Thank you.
Brothers, Ohio State has been on that time for years. Oklahoma previously was on that time for years.
Yep.
So it's our time now to say, you know what? Yes, it made CJ Stroud better that Kyle McCord was a 5-star out of Philadelphia. Jack Miller was a high 4-star out of Arizona. Then Quinn entered the room. Before CJ Stroud ever threw a pass at Ohio State, all those people were in the room. And you know what they were talking about at Ohio State? How quickly they could get rid of CJ Stroud. Or how much room do
Yeah.
we give CJ, right?
Remember that Oregon game?
Yeah.
You remember that? You remember the
Yeah, I
That
remember
Oregon
that.
game last year?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at the world now. Everybody, I always knew CJ was him. I always knew, right?
Was
Yeah.
him.
Now he's going to be a top 5 pick and all that. But
Yeah.
he got pushed.
Yeah, he got pushed.
He had now the iron sharp. That's the theme of this, right? But I do think from Quinn's perspective, the experience does and should matter. But the chances of anybody starting 12 games a season are tough, especially considering the competition, the injuries, and all the things that come about. Bryce Young didn't even make it the full 12 last year. They needed to start Milroe and play him a couple games. So having the room structured the way it is an immense positive. But I will say this for the people before I go to Chris. Last point for me: trust the staff.
Yeah.
Like, I know we like to go on Unfiltered and the message boards and Twitter and sell conspiracy theories, and the boosters want this person to start. And they don't believe in this person. And we have these hard and fast conclusions because we saw 1 of 15 practices. Like, there's people that believe that Quinn Ewers hasn't been playing well this whole spring now. Like, there's people that believe that, right? And trust the staff. Because if you're believing that stuff, you don't trust Steve. You don't think we have like go all the way with it. Go all the way with it. Don't sit up here and say, "Oh, they want push." I want everybody to get. I really hope Malik Murphy gets a fair shake at Texas at some point to be the man. I really hope that happens because I think he has all of the potential in the world to be one of those CJ Stroud type names that having a conversation of being in top 5. I think he has that much ability and talent.
Yes.
But trust the staff. That's my message. Simpkins, go ahead and weigh in. We're going to make this a part 2.
Okay.
Part 1, part 2, because we've just been talking offense and we're almost at
We definitely got to get to the defense, but we almost out. Yeah. Exactly. I got you.
I don't want to shortchange the defense.
Okay.
So we're going to make the defense a whole separate video.
I like that.
Let's do it.
But Chris, I want to give you these next 3 minutes because I do need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say your piece on the whole quarterback conversation.
Okay, I'll be real quick with this, man. First off, I want to thank Jonte Cook for this because if we remember over the last couple of years, he has been recruiting all 3 of these quarterbacks. Whether it was Malik and Quinn together at the 7-on-7 together. You always known him and Arshall homeboys. And that dude is smart because, you always see the quarterbacks trying to get all the receivers here. Now, that brother was just like, no, I want all the quarterbacks. I want to make sure that I have me a good quarterback to throw me the ball because that dude's extremely talented. So, Jonte, my man, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Number 2, this is kind of humorous, but I'm being for real about it, though, man. Young brother Malik. Now, I'm a middle-aged man. I'm speaking like your uncle, nephew. They giving brothers like Lamborghinis and car deals in Austin and these NIL. Man, if I hear about you on a scooter one more freaking time, son, young man. Hey, young black man, come on, man. Come on. You don't have to be on a scooter. You were so talented, man. And I mean that. Like, get your ride, be responsible. It ain't got to be if you real quiet about it, man. I drive a 4Runner, man. Toyotas, man, they good rides, man. Whatever you got to get, all right.
Get that NIL deal, Toyota.
In closing, go ahead, go.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
The key to ability is availability, and that's been one of the things that's unfortunately from high school too. And the injury he suffered that held him back.
Yeah.
And now that he's healthy, though,
and he can stay off them scooters.
Please, all Texas athletes.
Yeah.
Yes, please, all, not just some, all.
But last but not least, what I want to say is I got a lot of friends that are they're SEC fans or they're not Texas fans. They follow from afar, see all the big New York people writing articles about Texas that know nothing about it. And they're talking about Arch Manning, this, that, the other. And I'll tell you what, I'm trying to tell people about Malik Murphy. months ago, they're just kind of like, oh, who is that? Whatever. Here's the thing with Malik, and I was talking to Vashawn about this earlier on, about the quarterback battle with, between Quinn, Malik, and Arch in that room. Malik's not like 5'11", 6 feet, 195 pounds. Like that brother is 6'4", 6'5", 230, 235 pounds. And he's got probably the strongest arm in the room. Like he has no, like you saw on Saturday, that dude, and the thing I'm gonna give Sark the most credit about is in that scrimmage, the way he separated everything, man, it made it so it wasn't first against second. I mean, he actually separated where he had walk-on spread on with everybody, and it gave the offense and it gave the quarterbacks a chance. But the thing I liked about Malik, man, is that literally, no matter who he was with, man, no matter if it's the same group that Archer's with or that Quinn was playing against, man, that dude did what he needed to do. Just like Quinn did what he needed to do. I mean, he didn't try to do too much. He could have thrown a pick. He almost did. But I mean, it's like we said earlier on, man, iron sharp as iron. I don't think Malik's going to be intimidated by anybody. And honestly, if you ask the Mannings, they've always wanted Arch to be there. They don't want him to be the savior. I think they would be happy if this is a slow development. Obviously, you want him to compete, Arch to compete. But man, there's a narrative, there's a window for me to where Quinn finishes this year. It's Malik next year. I'll tell you what, if Quinn gets hurt though, bro, he might not get back in that game. But I'm just like I said, I'm so happy with this quarterback room. Malik Murphy's not a guy that's going to be intimidated by a name or by a figure or whatever or anything, man. That dude, like I said, he looks like a linebacker. He has the confidence. I mean, he's just seeing these guys react to the crowd after the game. Watching some of that is he has kind of an air about him. I mean, I kind of really like what I saw out of him. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with Malik. And I like this quarterback room. Everybody, I love Quinn. Don't give up on Quinn. Do not give up on Quinn.
No, and like I said, I think it's the best thing that ever happened to Quinn. And with having somebody like that behind him, there's no days off. Even in the off season, there's no days off. Whether it's throwing sessions, whether it's weight room, getting their bodies in order. That's something that Arch Manning will continue to do as well. All very critical. Guys, join us for part 2. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. We're going to focus exclusively on the defense. It was just too much good stuff to pick apart. But our the narratives that are out there, the positives, the concerns, the Unfiltered gang is here. And also our friends from Aura are here. So check out aura.com/fanatic. The QR code is right there on the screen. 14-day free trial that we're offering in Aura, the official sponsor, as well as the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are a all-in-one digital security platform. Amazing services, credit monitoring, fraud prevention, anything across the board that you're looking to secure your devices, VPN services. Look, the threats are out there. Hit up, or you need something on your devices, so at least try it with us to take care of you and be protected there. Aura.com/fanatic. Use that 14-day free trial. Very affordable prices on a monthly rate that you'll see on there. Guys, we'll be back for part 2. Remember, horns always up. Welcome.